example of what can be done if the will is there to do mission work and to bring the gospel of Christ and his love. I was poor, I was hungry, I was naked, I was a stranger, and you came to me. This identification, this solidarity between Christ and the poor is unique to Christianity. You don't hear the Buddha saying, I was poor and you helped me. You never hear that. You don't hear Muhammad saying that. You don't hear the founders of other religions saying that. That solidarity, that identification between the pauper, the sick, the disadvantaged, the disenfranchised, and the Christ is unique to us. It's unique to us, us Christians. So, over there, therefore, given the extraordinary amount of poverty, and which you will see in a minute, and the various medical issues that always arise, you know, that HIV/AIDS kills people, then we had Ebola, then even without Ebola and HIV, we get hit with malaria, typhoid, so many other tropical diseases. It's very hot, very humid. In fact, the saying in Africa, in West Africa, is that when the British armies first arrived there, they didn't have to fight them. The mosquito did the job. So, what I want to now address to you is what we're going to show you now. Today, 40,000 children died in Africa. Tomorrow, 40,000 children will die in Africa. And the next day, 40,000 children will die in Africa. That's the first horror that we need to understand if we are going to understand mission fields in the African zones. 70% of the people living on this planet are living under $2 US dollars a day. 70% of the world's population is living under $2 a day. Imagine, you are a mother, you have 4 children. The choices you have with $2 is bleak. Shall I feed my children? Shall I wash them? Shall I send them to school? Or that sick boy that needs a doctor? What do you do with $2? Very little. And so essentially, what it is survival. That's why you see children's mortality rate sky high in West Africa. We have the highest child mortality rate in the world. One child in 5 will die before reaching the age of 5. And then the mortality rate of women giving birth is also very high. Our medical facilities are very primitive. There is no way we can heal cancer. If you've got cancer, you have to go away. You have to go to another country. We have no chemotherapy. We have no way of handling cancer. We had a priest whose wife, the presbytera, contracted cancer of the arm, which became a balloon and then spread to her body. She was condemned to death, basically. There was nothing we could do. We had to send her overseas in order for her to receive just normal chemotherapy. She survived. We have a little boy right now, his name is Isa, who's developed cancer of the eye. His eyes popped out to this high. Now, in Germany, in the UK, this is a very simple procedure. Very simple. It wouldn't cost you more than £200 sterling to treat this. But over there, it's a death sentence. It's a death sentence. Simply because of the medical infrastructure that is not anywhere near the Western world. Nowhere near. We're really so far behind. And then when you add to all that the Ebola crisis, which killed something like 500 medical people, and we were left with a skeleton crew of medics, and even they ran away. So at some point during the Ebola crisis, there was no medical assistance whatsoever. If you had Ebola, you were dead. They would come take you, put you in this so-called holding area, and then bury you in a mass grave. And we didn't get any help. In the beginning, we had no help at all. People were dying in the streets. People were actually literally dying in the streets. Families were found together dead in the house for several days. Children dead, parents dead. And the international community turned a blind eye until a white man got it. And he was an American. And he left to go back to the United States, and suddenly President Obama knew about Ebola. Same thing with the UK. A nurse, one of your nurses that came there, contracted Ebola. She came back to the UK, and suddenly Ebola became a household word in the UK. But before that, when all the Africans were dying, well, it didn't count. It didn't count. So there's some of the subtle racism that exists. Without intention, sometimes we do act in a sort of a racial way. The value of the African life is not worth the value of a life in the UK. It's as simple as that. That's the stark, brutal truth, unfortunately. But we who live there and see their value, their worth, their talent. I guarantee you, if I bring a child here from a 6-year-old, she or he would outrun anyone here in sport. And then in the voices, the beautiful voices, and there's so much natural talent which is not exploited whatsoever. So, without much to do, what I want to show you now, if I may, is this. The orphan crisis of the world through various reasons, but particularly we're going to focus on Ebola. One of the stigmas that has occurred in Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea is this. If your mother and father contracted Ebola and you survived, you are stigmatized for the rest of your life. Now, you're an orphan. Who's going to take care of you? There may appear a good Samaritan. There may be someone who's going to help you. But by and large, you're under suspicion. So what we've done as part of our latest projects, among the other projects, is to build 2 orphanages, 2 orphan projects, which we are going to specifically take in Ebola children.